So I'd like to just take a moment and share with you why I think unconditional self-love is so important. It's actually almost difficult for me to find the reasons because it's everything for me. So let's start at the top. The ego self, the you that you think you are, the identity that you've woven for yourself. In many circles, ego is a dirty word because it's actually taken to mean inauthentic ego or out of control ego, disconnected ego, because that can be a very problematic thing. But the ego self is a fiction. It's just like a collection of ideas and concepts that you have about yourself. The divine self is what you truly are. You are your divine self. You are already right now your divine self. So the reason we don't know that we are our divine self, the reason we get confused about this is because the ego construct is created so powerfully that we tell ourselves that I am this, I am the ego. I am this human being, I'm this person, I'm this identity, this name. I do the following jobs, I have the following relationships, these are the things that I'm attached to. And all of that, all of those attachments, those are the ego. When the divine self attaches, it attaches very powerfully. It then creates that it is the stuff that it's attached to. So your divine self incarnates into a baby body when just, round about the time of birth, your divine self gets attached. And there's a process of attachment to connect you to this human body. And then there's a process of really learning that you are. You are the human body. The name that your parents give to the human body, that's your name. And the things that they tell you that, this is who you are, you're a part of this family, and we, as a family, we behave like this, we think like this, we do like that. Oh, those people over there, they're different from us. And so ego definition starts to become differentiation. You start to separate yourself out from things. I'm not like that, I'm like this. I judge that behavior and I aspire to this behavior, which is all, it's all fine. It's all part of the journey. That's why we're here. But in order to even be born here into this body and into this ego vessel, you've engaged in a journey of lowering the frequency of your consciousness. And the process of lowering the frequency of consciousness is, in a nutshell, a process of creating a set of filters that you put between the divine being that you really are and the ego vessel that you believe you are. And as those filters get more and more dense, so less and less of the divine light, of the authentic light and love and truth of your being can reach the ego. The ego kind of densifies and densifies. And these filters are very often built out of wounds and traumas. So that's how they kind of block the light. And then, so as you build up these filters, you really believe more and more intently that you are the ego being. And all of this is kind of okay. This is why we came here. We came to create, like a computer game. If you're going to be playing a role-playing computer game, you begin by creating your character. And you maybe decide what attributes your character is going to have, how it will look, and where your character will live in this game playing. And then you start playing the game. You need all of that filtration in order to be in the game, to be a human being. Where it gets problematic is where the filtration gets so dense, so deep, that you can no longer connect with, believe in, feel, relate to your divine self. you see what's happened? The you that you really are has gotten lost in the illusion, has gotten lost in the game, has become disconnected from its most authentic beingness, its own divine light. Now, even this is not really problematic, because even this is part of the design. Even this is what we came to do. We came to get lost in the illusion, because from a place of lostness, we can really recreate ourselves. As long as you retain your connection to the divine, some part of you goes, but I know who I am. I'm a divine creator being, and I'm creating my reality, and I know all of these things. So you get lost so that you can forget that, so that you can then recreate yourself. And then the process of all of these filters, which, as I say, are blocks, wounds, the process of refining and removing the filters is the process of healing. It's the process of ascension, the process of enlightenment. It's all the same thing. These are different words for the same thing. And these filters then become the jewels of your soul. They go from being a trauma, a wound, a block, a problem, a source of discomfort, a source of a psychological, spiritual, eventually physical illness. So these are your problems. And then as you figure them out, they become your source of insight, understanding, wisdom, compassion. They become profound jewels of the soul that you will use for the rest of your journey all the way back to Source, which is a virtual eternity. I mean, it's a long journey all the way back to Source. And that's a good thing, because the journey back just gets more and more beautiful, more and more amazing, more and more wonderful. The journey in can be hell. It can be really tough. So a lot of people have jumped into this reality, dived down through the layers, the density layers, and gotten more and more lost and more confused, and eventually they've lost themselves in this illusion. And then they start to do the work. You hit rock bottom, and you say, I can't do this anymore, I've got to do something else. And they start to do the work. They start to try and figure out how to heal themselves, or maybe they find help, start healing themselves, awakening themselves, transforming themselves, finding themselves, and they're on the way up, back into the light, and they say, but this is all too exhausting. I can't anymore. I'm done. I don't want to do any of this anymore. I'm out, I'm finished, I'm done. This world is not for me. The irony is they've awoken enough to start remembering their own divine light, to start remembering their own authenticity. And because they're remembering the divine light, they're looking around them and saying, but this is all wrong for me. Because they're awakening, they're looking around at the rest of the world and finding I'm surrounded by people who aren't awake. I am switched on to my healing. I'm switched on to my transformation. Everybody around me is switched on to the matrix. Everybody is interested in, quite frankly, bullshit. It's the lies of the matrix that fascinate them. And what do they want to talk about? They want to talk about things that aren't true, things that aren't real. Just matrix nonsense is what captures everybody around you. And people aren't making deeply other responsible choices, doing stupid self-destructive things. And you look at it and you go, no, let me give you some advice. Because I'm feeling it. I can help you. And you try and help them, and they turn on you as if you're the enemy, as if you're the confused, lost person. And so you feel the irony is, because you are waking up, because you're on your journey, because you are connecting, you feel alienated, you feel disconnected, you feel like this is all wrong and I don't belong and I don't want to be here and I hate all of this and I just want out. And you're on the cusp of real transformation, of connecting with your source of bliss and joy, realizing that you're actually not a victim to any of this, finding your own creator nature. You're on the cusp of that, is exactly when people go, okay, I'm out. I'm done. Finished. No more. So if you, this is the point, is there's a moment there where you need to just remember what's really going on here. And that you are on your path. You are doing what you're meant to be doing. You're waking up, and it gets better and better and better. And once you are sparked, once you are awake past a certain level, if you leave this world, then you don't come back to this world. You don't go round again. Why would you? You've graduated. You move on. And what you move on to, well, that's up to you. I mean, I'm not here to tell you what your soul's journey is, but you can move on to higher levels of consciousness, which means you can, if you choose, incarnate again in realities very different from this. If you're a star seed, you can incarnate again back in your home world, and the bliss of that. The bliss of returning with the jewels of your soul, the bliss of returning in mastery to that home space where you belong, or move up to even higher levels, up to the if you attain true enlightenment, then you're at the 8th density level of this octave, which means you are able to access the next octave, which is the godlike realm. And from there you go and you create realities. You know, you can co-create another world that you like better than this one. Or you can co-create a fork of this world. So it's this, but just a little different. Or something else entirely. The doors really open, and the struggle, the burdensome, onerous, tiresome, weighty struggle that has been, that's in your memory, that has been the way life has been, is over. It doesn't always have to be hard. I've recently got to a place for myself where I've suddenly got this. I'm just going to tell this little bit of a story because Lisa's waiting in the wings to tell her story. Because today we're storytelling. I'm going to tell my story of learning to love myself unconditionally, what that was, how that worked. But first, Lisa's going to tell hers. Lisa's going to speak from the tantric perspective, what unconditional self-love is. But I just want to quickly say that I've carried with me into this life a profound resistance. I've always called it my I don't wanna. Because it's like a kid who's being told, you got to go to school and you got to go and do things and you got to go and write tests and you got to achieve and you got to do, and the kid's just, I don't wanna, because it felt like that inside of me, that there's this kid who's just, and if you look behind me energetically, you'd see 2 skid marks. Because I've just had my heels dug in. But you'd also see like hand marks because I've also been pulling myself. Like if you were to drive a vehicle and you've got one foot on the gas and another foot on the brakes and you just push both. That's kind of been my journey. Up until fairly recently when it's been getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And I'm now at a place where I just completely let go of I don't wanna. Because I do wanna. Because it doesn't have to be onerous and burdensome and scary. It can be playful and joyful and light. And I can just show up and shine. I don't have to worry about stuff. Why is that? Because I am getting to the place where this ego vessel has so loved the divine being within and so completely trusted the divine being that it has taken itself on a journey to seeing that the divine being is there. It's not a joke, it's not a fiction, it's not a story, it's not a sometimes, it's not a maybe, it's always. The divine being is here. And if I surrender to the divine being, I'm led correctly. And surrendering to the divine being doesn't always just have to be like a big thing. And I'll talk about that. I'll talk about truth tests and surrendering to the divine. It doesn't always have to be a big thing. It can be a right now thing, a right now, right here. I'm showing up right now. And this meat suit is making the vibrations and the flaps of the tongue and the throat in order for the sounds to be made. But this meat suit, this body, is enacting the divine within. I'm showing up, the divine being is here. And if that's true, then I don't have to worry about anything. The ego being, the part of self that doesn't know, has got nothing to worry about. It's all going to unfold perfectly. And I've been on this journey so that I've seen whenever I surrender to the divine, it unfolds perfectly. It's always exactly as it's meant to be, which is sometimes you've got a tough thing to go and figure out. It's not always the easiest things that you're called to do. Very often you're called to do tough things. You are called to do things that the ego rebels and doesn't want to do. That becomes a truth test. But if you do, the bigger picture, it always works out perfectly. Sometimes, often, miraculously, wondrously, beautifully, perfectly. That you go, there's no way. I could never have imagined in my wildest dreams that this could be how it is. And then it is.